Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30!
There are 4 players for Indiana.
Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the 3 and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, hello everybody. Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you, of course, by our good friends from Endeavor Hospitality of Bloomington, the fine folks from Southern Stone Restaurants, Feast Marketplace, Cellar, Cabello, the Courtroom in Bedford, BB's Marketplace. Hello, Kevin Brockway. Where in the world? Are you still up in the Northeast?
Yeah, still up in New York, and then this afternoon I take a flight back to Indy. So, yep, I was up here obviously for the women's Sweet 16 game where they got trounced by UConn, and then of course UConn last night went on to the Final Four. Pretty epic game against NC State, 2 overtime game, but they pulled it out. So they are going to Minneapolis.
Yeah, I saw Louisville, UConn. Are all 4 set? I can't remember.
Yeah, Louisville, UConn, Stanford, and of course South Carolina with Dawn Staley. Pretty tough team. So it's South Carolina, Louisville, and then Stanford, UConn are going to be the 2 games. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty compelling competition over the weekend. Not so much, unfortunately, for Indiana. They just kind of fell apart in that really bad third quarter with that 16-0 run. But the Notre Dame, North Carolina State game, which I saw came down to the wire, and unfortunately, a Notre Dame point guard, her name escapes me, gets the ball swiped by Reina Perez with 14 seconds left and takes it in for a breakaway layup for the go-ahead basket, and North Carolina State won 66-63. So tough break, tough game for Notre Dame, who is Nell Ivey, who coaches Notre Dame, actually went to the game in Philadelphia to watch her son Jaden on Friday night, and that turned out to his Purdue falls to St. Peter's.
Yeah, this is pretty much, it's not chalk for women's basketball, but you've got 4 good teams in there.
Oh yeah, no, 3 1s and a 2. So Connecticut being the 2, and of course there was a lot of buzz on Twitter, controversy about the fact that in Connecticut was a 2, and they were essentially playing a home game in Bridgeport, Connecticut, during the home state, about 80 miles from campus, whereas North Carolina State was a 1. That maybe there was a little bit of a fairness issue there. That if North Carolina State on merit was the better team throughout the course of the season, they shouldn't have played what was essentially a road.
You still there?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I lost you there. Yeah, there you go. Well, so now you're heading back to the land of Oz. I'm
heading back to Indianapolis, and then I will leave for Florida for my birthday on Thursday. So, and maybe I'll go to Fort Myers, see Jalen Hood-Schifino, because he will be down there with the Geico National Championships over the weekend. Obviously, a big weekend for obviously them to continue to look at that recruit and that incoming freshman coming in, who should be the prize of that class, that 2022 class.
Speaking of class, Louisville has lost a bunch in their class. I've seen another decommitment, so I've at least 2 decommitments in as many days. One I talked about, one of which yesterday, Deontay Davis, the kid from Warren Central, whose brother already plays for Louisville. He may not be going back. Indiana could have a lot of choice. Not that Indiana necessarily is a landing spot for him, but Indiana has 3 incoming guys. I would think anything above that is going to come from the transfer portal.
Yeah, well, right now they're 1 under, right, because of the 4 that have already put their name in the transfer portal. so they can go out and get one guy, and then who knows what's going to happen, with Race Thompson, with Miller Kopp, with some of the other players, with Trace. So, yeah, they'll be able to shop in the transfer portal a little bit this offseason to try to fill some of those holes. But you'll also see how certain guys develop during the offseason as well. And if they can make a jump, a guy like a Jordan Geronimo, a guy like a Trey Galloway, if they can make significant jumps during the offseason too, which could be needed, especially if Trace leaves.
Yeah, well, and they also need the action on the wings. They need a wing guy, somebody out on the wings that can score and defend. So not sure if that ends up coming out of the portal or if they go back to the old-fashioned recruiting for that. I would think the portal, just because of the immediacy impact for next season.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. I do think that CJ Gunn could eventually be that 3-and-D guy. I just don't know if he's quite ready yet, but I think he's a guy down the road. You talk about a wing player, a guy that could really impact the game that way, not just with his offense, but with his defense. I really like him defensively and what he can do. And I think he can really, if he commits to it with his size and athleticism, I think he can really be a really good shutdown defender.
Good question from Michelle. When do we think that Trace will basically make up his mind? I don't know that you hear shortly before. I mean, he's going to test the waters with the NBA, right? I mean, you have to, regardless if he comes back or not. I'm thinking just to save face, if nothing else, if you're not going to go, right?
Well, I mean, how many times do we see people put their names in and then not come back? I mean, I think that would be a bad sign. If he did that, the likelihood of him coming back would not be as strong. So I think, you would really want a commitment. Mike Woodson, I guess, is currently on vacation this week. He'll be back next week. So I would think that would be something, if he hasn't had that conversation with Mike already. As you remember, he was going to have a conversation with Mike before making a decision. So maybe that conversation hasn't happened yet on the road. And I believe they have until April 12th to decide. So he's got some
time. Donald Trump apparently had a hole-in-one. He issued a statement as such.
He's been known to cheat on the golf course, though, right? Apparently.
Many people are asking, so I'll give it to you now. It's 100% true, Trump wrote. While the shot in question was not recorded on video, Trump communications director Taylor Budovich posted a video on Twitter Monday of the former president picking up the apparent hole-in-one ball at the green. Yeah, I picked those up all kinds of times. Hey, look at that. Hey, what a great shot. Yeah, that's funny. I just found that humorous.
Are you getting back out and doing some golfing or no?
Man, it's too cold. Not yet. It's got to warm up.
All right.
It's got to warm up, man. I'm looking forward to it. Really. Now, the transfer portal. That's going to be a weird place this year to see who enters from other teams. Last year, the surprise to me was this just 1 year ago when Harms left?
Harms and Eastern, that was 2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago. That's still, I never, that one just, I guess because he saw the writing on the wall, what was coming in, but I'm like, golly, man. But yeah, it's always interesting to see guys leave teams that you thought were fine. I see you mentioned here that Corbello has entered the portal. I don't know that to be true. So
yes, he has entered the portal. Yeah, it was reported last night by a number of outlets. So that's going to be
that's a little surprising to me.
Not necessarily. I will tell you this: he is, and Mike has spoken to this too. He's always been a little bit of a wild card offensively in terms of like that point guard role. And I could see, if you remember the end of that Indiana game, that Indiana won the Big Ten tournament. I mean, he took the ball full court, just threw up a wild shot instead of trying to set anyone up. I mean, who knows what kind of conversations he had with Brad Underwood at the end of the year. But I'm not as surprised or as shocked about that as some people are, I think. But he's definitely a talent, and he will definitely get the attention of plenty of teams throughout the country, including maybe some ACC teams, maybe some SEC teams. Don't know if he stays in the Big Ten or not, but he will go somewhere, and he will make an impact. But he's also a guy that has to rein in his game a little bit.
So I don't know that we actually answered the question though. When do we think that we'll hear from a decision from Trace Jackson Davis?
Well, I said Mike down, so probably next week.
I was going to say the deadline's coming up, so
April 12th, I think, is it?
Yeah, so yeah, soon enough. But even with that, can you go through the process? Now I cannot remember and still drop out. As long as you
you can if you don't hire an agent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although with the new rules now, maybe you can have an agent anyway because you can have agents for NIL.
Well, no one knows anything anymore. It's like, what's legal, what's not legal anymore.
Yeah.
Because what's on paper is not what's being done.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's going to be all kinds of names entering the portal, so that part will be fun. Kind of fun. I don't know. Is it fun? It certainly has changed if you don't think it's changed the landscape of college sports, all I have to say is 2-22. That's what Indiana State was last season.
Yeah, Iowa State, yeah.
Iowa State, 2-22. And this season, Sweet 16. Come on. That's when I wonder, that tells you it's gone too far. You should not be able to go from 2-22 to a Sweet 16 appearance in a single season because a new coach came in. That's usually when your programs were wrecked. Hell, now it's the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah, I think you can bring in a lot of new guys, but you have to give Ultimoser a lot of credit though because he coached his butt off to get that turnaround as well. So I think it's a combination of factors there. They play really good defense, but I watched that Sweet 16 game against Miami. They're really offensively challenged. They have issues scoring the basketball. That really showed up in that game. But no, I mean, listen, there's there's a lot you can do, but you got to hit on them. And transfers are hit and miss. I mean, we saw that this year with Michael Durr, with Parker Stewart. I mean, was there really an impact transfer that Indiana got last year from that? Xavier Johnson, I guess, yeah, you can make the argument that Xavier Johnson was an impact guy. It took him a while, though, really to get settled in. So
that was more about him, I think, than
you've got to settle in. I think that's the thing, or you've got to establishing chemistry is so important. And I kind of thought that Purdue team, had that continuity and chemistry. They just lacked defense and the clutch gene. I think that really hurt them. Every time they got into a tight situation, they seemed to unravel instead of rising to the occasion.
Well, even Shaquille O'Neal's son is leaving LSU, but of course that's jumping off of a sinking ship there.
Yeah.
That's not going to be fun. See, that makes you wonder what's life going to be like for. Has LSU hired a coach yet?
Yeah, McMahon from Murray State.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So life cannot be fun there. You got to think that they got to be getting hit with something here coming up, along with Louisville, and both places coaching changes coming. Both places there has to be NCAA penalties looming in the background. So there's two different places right there where we see people leaving the program. But in today's market, where you just jump into use the transfer portal, it'll take nothing for them to regroup and form a team. So, and that's why fans are going to have a lot less patience now. Because when you see a program that can go from 2-22 1 year to the Sweet 16, well, hell, everybody can do that. So it does that 3 and 4 year stuff. I don't know. Is that still going to be there for a coach? Are they going to still get 3 and 4 years to do that, to build a program? Because, man, I know that some people say, well, that's how you got to build them. Really? I think it's a
well, you want to have, I think you want to have a core of players that are really, that are extreme. It's still, basketball is still a game. It's a team game. It's a game of continuity. And I still think the really good teams are the teams that build cores. Now, you take a look at Duke. I mean, they are starting 3 freshmen. They also have a sophomore and a junior. But I mean, if you get really, really talented guys, impact guys, top 20 guys, you can win quickly. But if you can't get those top 20 guys or 3 or 4 of them, then you're going to have to win with continuity. I think that's just kind of the way it is. You've got to win that way. And I even look at like Bruce Pearl's team. They brought in a lot of transfers, and they were a top 5 team during the regular season. But in the postseason, when things got hot and heavy, they lost to Miami. And Miami had a team with more continuity, and they ended up winning. And there was an older team, was a veteran team, and they ended up beating them. So there is something to be said for building that way too, I think.
Yes, sir. Hey, we got to take a break. That's what the boss says, and we will do it. Don't forget to go to your app store on whatever phone or service you use and get your My Wow Club card. That will open up all kinds of savings for you. Members earn exclusive discounts, dining dollars to spend, and more sent directly to your mobile phone. The Wow Club is comprised of a variety of delicious establishments just waiting for you to come in and sit in all the places I mentioned to you. Go there to mywownetwork.com and get signed up for that. We've got lots more coming up. Mike DeCourcy's with us today, Chronic Hoosier. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington,
I've got this sun glare from the window. I'm going to try to move over.
I'm going to text Mike if he's joining us this morning, because is there a chance? I mean, I guess can't remember if he told us or not, but is he going to be on a flight today? Because I know he was out west for the regional round, but I feel like he would have been back already, but who knows?
Yes. Yeah, Russia will drastically cut military activity near Kiev. Maybe that's because all your piece of crap equipment's broken down on the side of the road. Man, what a junk outfit they are.
All right, that's better.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
We don't have the glare coming from the window.
Yeah.
What are you, in a garage?
No, it's a room, yeah.
It's a room, yeah.
Pictures in the background. It's not a garage.
Is it pictures? Yeah.
Kind of looks like an attic, a really large attic.
Yeah.
Kevin, did you watch the Oscars situation a couple nights ago?
Yes. Crazy.
I couldn't stop watching it yesterday. I think the funniest part about it all is that moments before it happened, Will Smith was actually laughing at Chris Rock's joke. But you look at his wife, and she gives him the eye, and all of a sudden he's up there slapping Chris Rock.
Yeah.
I messaged Mike. We'll see if he comes on, but I'm going to assume he's not going to be on today. But you got your boy Kev. Oh, tell him about that pub. Who was telling us about that yesterday?
Which pub?
There's a pub that has your last name somewhere in Indiana.
Carmel, Brockways or something?
Yeah, in Carmel. Yeah, that's right. It was Jim Reamer who told us about it. That's right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
There's Mike.
Welcome aboard. Back on this Tuesday. Heading towards spring. Kevin Brockway with us from CNHI. Mike DeCourcy, the king of all media, is with us as well. Back from his trek around the world. Mike, how are you doing, sir?
Oh my goodness. It was it was certainly a fascinating weekend to be in San Francisco to see the Duke Blue Devils make Mike Krzyzewski's 13th Final Four. But that trip back, man, it gets you, right?
Oh my God. I'm still paying. I swear to God, I'm still paying for Portland.
So it was a busy weekend, but it was a good weekend. And, and we're facing another one now. Last one of the college basketball season. It should be an interesting Final Four, I think.
Duke and North Carolina never happened in the NCAA tournament. Is that right?
That is correct. It's never happened. It came, I don't know if any other times it came close, but the one it's most famous for coming close was here in Indianapolis in 1991 when Carolina played Kansas in one semifinal, and that Kansas team was coached by Roy Williams, and the Duke Blue Devils played UNLV in the second semifinal, and Kansas beat that Carolina team. So even though Duke pulled the upset, there was no chance for them to meet. But it's really interesting now in history, right, that the three of them, Krzyzewski, Smith, Williams, were all there in that building on that night coaching their teams. And then, of course, there was lots of intersection between them ever since.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then for them to not have met throughout their fainted history, and for it to happen now on Krzyzewski's way out in the Final Four, kind of apropos, I guess you'd say. And then also the ACC, a great showing in the tournament, and it shows again, man, the regular season is only it's now become a demarcation line. There is a definitive change of seasons now in college basketball between the regular season and the postseason. I mean, man, you can be hot going into it, or you can get hot once you get to it, and it's all the same. But the excitement this year of these upsets, which we always have, but the parity just seemed to be greater this year.
Well, I told you guys on multiple occasions that this was a season of flawed teams, that the whole key to getting to where these teams are now will be disguising your flaws, that making sure that others don't see it. And to an extent, I think Duke in their case, they adjusted their flaw. They changed the way they played. They're running more sets than they used to now because they have to cover for the fact that their point guard isn't the creator. He doesn't make plays. He can get the ball up the floor, and he's a pretty good defender on the ball. He's not great, but he's good enough. And so they decided that they would play more like that they would run more sets and just ask him to start the set and not necessarily to create. You don't see them run a ton of pick and roll like some teams do because they don't have that player. So they do other things to get their shooters open, and they're really good at it now. And as they've continued to escalate in that department, they've become better and better. I mean, one of the things that Jeremy Roach, their point guard, does do is that after they start their offense, when you're defending them, you're looking at having to defend Paolo Banchero, who will be a top 3 pick and can attack as a ball handler from the power forward spot at 6'10", which is really unusual. And then you have Wendell Moore, who's a really good player off the bounce as a wing and an excellent creator for a small forward, but not really somebody you'd want to run as a point guard. And they did some nice things, have done some nice things running their offense through him, but they've been better since they went back to him being, a scoring wing who can create rather than a creator who maybe gets some buckets now and then. But then what happens is when you're all gummed up with dealing with that, and you've got Mark Williams, who's 6'11", 7 feet, and super dynamic and super long, that you have to always be worried that if the ball's coming into the lane and he's near the rim, that they're just going to throw it up and he's going to go get it. So Roach has gotten really good at understanding that you're so worried about those other guys that you don't think he's going to hurt you. And then he'll get to the lane, get to the rim. And then again, as I mentioned, boy, if I come on him, if I leave Williams, I mean, he's just going to throw it over the top and it's going down hard. So they let him go and he winds up with a bunch of layups. He's done really well with that in this tournament. It hurt Michigan State. It really hurt Texas Tech because they were, they're such a great defense. They're so hard to penetrate, and he was able to do that.
Kevin,
Mike, I'm curious about your thoughts on the Big Ten. Is this a league that peaks too early, or what is your assessment in terms of this year? No teams advancing past the Sweet 16.
Well, I think the first thing that needs to be understood about that is that they weren't supposed to go past the Sweet 16. They did not have a single team on the top 2 lines, and they didn't warrant it. And what they had was a lot of good teams, some very good teams. Now, should Purdue have beaten St. Peter's? Yes, but I'm just talking about the original perception that that when you get 9 teams in, you're supposed to do X. I don't know what X, whatever X is a kind of a fungible thing. It depends on how much people hate your league, and so when they got 9 in, and if you look at it from a seed standpoint, how many games are you supposed to win based on your original seed? They lost one more game than they should have. So, I mean, now, again, like I said, when you get to the Sweet 16 and you're Purdue and you're playing a 15 seed, you got to win. And that was a poor performance. And I suppose like Iowa would be considered a disappointing performance because they lost to a 12, although that, it's different when you're a team, when you go into the NCAA tournament and you're facing a knuckleball pitcher instead of, somebody who throws fastballs and sliders. I mean, and that's what they got. They got a team that played Princeton offense, and they would never have seen that team if Davidson had gotten one more rebound. Richmond would not have won that game, and they would have been in the tournament. But they lost the game, and so that's a disappointment. There's no question. But they also had Indiana win a 50-50 game and Rutgers lose a 50-50 game. They had the 2 7 seeds, Ohio State and Michigan State, both win their games and then play reasonably tough against teams that are now in the Final Four. And Ohio State wasn't great in that game, but they were competitive in the final 5 minutes. They were down 6. And Michigan State nearly won against a team that may end up winning the national championship. So I don't think either of those teams really disappointed in this tournament. I think the only one that you could be really disappointed in was Purdue because the door opened for them. And, with 1 and 2 losing and they're the 3, and then you're playing a 15, you got to at least get to the Elite 8 there. I mean, and so that was a disappointment. There's no doubt. But I don't think the league overall has had a disappointing season. I didn't think the league would be this good this year. I didn't think that they would find 9 teams that could make it. So the fact that they did that, I thought they had a good year. People don't like the Big Ten. And, and just as they don't like Duke, when you're successful, they don't like you. And so the fact that they were poor last year, and last year was poor. I mean, last year they had 1s and 2s that didn't go anywhere. That's a poor performance. There's nobody in the Big Ten who's going to say that wasn't poor. This year was just okay in the tournament. And for a season, it was pretty good to have 9 teams that you could take. But the idea that this is happening all the time is preposterous. I mean, first of all, they don't get a lot of teams all the time, or they wouldn't have had 4 in 2018. 4 out of 14. That's not a lot, guys. And then the other thing about it is that if you look at it from a standpoint of production and effectiveness, if you go back to I haven't done the window this year, but if you go back from 2010 to last season, which is 2021, that window of tournaments, they were second in winning percentage, second in victories, first in Final Four teams. What do you want? Well, what you want is to have something to criticize the league you don't like. Okay, we get it. Certainly the Big Ten would much rather have Final Four teams and Elite Eight teams. They didn't this year. They didn't last year. But getting 9 teams in what a lot of us thought, I'm sure you did too, Kevin, thought, if they have 7, it'll be a good year. And they go out and get 9. And I think that's a pretty strong performance.
Yeah. Let's remind ourselves that the SEC didn't get any teams they had 1 in the Sweet 16, and they had a bunch of 2 seeds that bowed out in around the 32. So
they had 1, 2. They had 2 2s and a 3 that 2 2s, a 2 and a 3, and 2 2s and a 3 that lost before the Sweet 16. Now that's underperformance. I think they were a -7, if I remember correctly. I was exchanging texts with Andy Katz on Friday night. The SEC was a -7 in terms of victories based on what they were seeded. I mean, they had 2 6s, remember, too, that also lost in the first round. So they really underperformed. And I like I said, it wasn't a great year for the Big Ten in tournament performance, but it wasn't a disaster either.
No, so and the Big Ten going forward, does this, after a couple of years of this, does it change how teams focus? Because the during the season, when we watch Big Ten play, quote unquote Big Ten play, it's always thought of as a big banging league, and then thought that you can't do that in the tournament. I don't know that I agree with that. I think a lot of times it's just matchup problems.
Well, I heard, but it's not a big banging league. Look, they got big guys, but but the idea that that's how they're playing. I mean, Wisconsin wasn't that. No, they didn't win. That was not who they were. Iowa didn't even have a center, really. I mean,
just because a lot of teams had some big guys, because I think about Illinois. Yeah, they have Kofi Coburn, but I'm thinking about those guards that they had out front.
Illinois didn't even really have a power forward. I mean, they had, like you could say, they had a stretch 4, but I mean, there was no power in there. They struggled to get rebounds in the game they lost to Houston. That was, the problem. Houston was much more a power team than Illinois was. Illinois' problem in that game was they couldn't make a shot when they were sending 72 defenders after Kofi and leaving everybody open, and nobody could make a shot. Kofi could barely move in that game.
The Big Ten seems to be in need of great guards, great playmakers, the guys that change the outcomes of games. And I don't know that Johnny Davis got a lot of attention, but they got beat easily because he didn't have a lot of help, like you just mentioned.
Well, that's
on
exactly
the other side of that.
That's exactly it. The Big Ten this year was a league of stars, and none of those stars had enough support in the end. EJ Liddell out there at times, almost, with the exception of Branham, almost by himself at times. Same with Johnny. Just not enough support for him. In the end, Illinois did not have enough support for Kofi. Because if the support is there, if I'm dropping every open three you give me because you're sending 3 defenders after Kofi on every touch, then I'm a different team. But, there's also the fact that one of the reasons that teams sent 3 defenders after him was because they didn't understood that he doesn't pass well out of the post. I mean, if he's going to come back to college, which, he might as well, I mean, you got to learn how to pass out of the post. The ball's got to come out. It didn't come out fast enough on a lot of those occasions, and that's why teams did that. Partly because they didn't worry about the opponent making threes when the ball came back out. But also part of it was because it would take so much effort to get the ball out that by the time the ball got back to a shooter, the shooter wouldn't be open. So that's why it worked. It just wasn't, there were a lot of great players in this league this year that didn't have enough support. And that's why the league struggled to the extent that they did in March.
And you can look at the team that we cover, right? Indiana. It's pretty much the same thing.
I was just getting ready to say that. I was just going to say, but they're another example. Just think if they had a wing that they could count on, and Xavier Johnson started playing
right
the way he did the last third of the season earlier on, that makes them a completely different team.
At least one, and they played 2 guys who weren't effective, and I there's a debate to be had about whether that was good. I mean, because I
don't think there's a debate, man.
Okay, all right, I agree with you. I don't think that those guys should have gotten the level of minutes that they did. Once you get to March and they still haven't gotten it done, at a certain point you got to say, hey, we can be better playing other guys, and they didn't ever do that to the extent that they could have.
We got to take a quick break more to talk about what we just finished up with Indiana. Dane Fife, U.S. national men's team, they're going to make it looks like, man. No disappointment this time around, Mike.
All they have to do is not lose 6-0.
See, you just put the jinx on, man.
But that's a fact. I mean, it's literally the fact.
I know that, but just saying it out loud, even as preposterous as it is, man, it just I can just see that all they had to do was not lose 6-0.
It's true. They can lose 5-0 and celebrate. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. They've got a 5-goal cushion. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Hey, we got more coming up. We're back with it. Don't forget, if you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with more Mike DeCourcy and Kevin Brockway right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
An Evansville tradition.
Mike, do you think the U.S. will rest a lot of good players, or do you think they'll go out there and try to win?
No, I think you have to go out and try to win, because if you put pressure on Costa Rica, then any chance that they might overwhelm you is mitigated. You go out and you play and you press high, and and if you need to bunker at a certain point, you can, but I think it makes more sense to go out and try to perform. Remember that they went to Mexico, and Mexico was in certainly a must perform situation, and they played aggressively and didn't give up any goals. So I think they can go out there and play confidently with. I think if Reyna is better from the stomach thing, I think he'll start. I don't know whether they'll start Christian or not. I think it would be wise not to.
Yeah.
But I don't see how you don't start Tyler Adams. He's not playing that much right now at the Red Bull anyway. So so he could probably take another full load of minutes, or at least start and play until you're pretty sure you're not going to give up 6 goals in 15 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. I just can't believe we're living in a world where Canada's probably going to win the table.
Yeah, they handled their business well. It's one of those things. They came here when we didn't have Weston and weren't quite ready yet. And we made a mistake too in playing that game in a football stadium. That was a mistake. We can't do that anymore. It's not worth it. I think they were trying to let Nashville get their soccer stadium and then go there. Those games in Cincinnati and Columbus and Minnesota, they made a difference. And then Orlando was fabulous on Sunday night. They were tremendous. They do a really good
size
job.
Difference?
I'm sorry?
Is that because of field size difference?
Not the field, the stadium size. Most of those soccer stadiums are around 20-ish. So you make sure that all 20, for the most part, are your people, your fans, and then you make it a home atmosphere. When you go to a football stadium,
can't control that.
First of all, you're not filling up the building. I mean, it wasn't like Canada had a whole bunch of fans or anything, but it's like a vacant atmosphere. It's not as intimidating to the opposition. So that was the mistake they made with Canada too. That certainly hurt them.
I also saw you had a fun little exchange with Matt Jones the other day on Twitter. I thought that was awesome.
I mean,
yeah, who doesn't? Hey.
I have a perfect analogy. Like the Steelers won the Super Bowl.
10 seconds. I probably should have brought that up. Sorry about that. If we had more time, I would have.
Yeah.
Come see us at all new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Tuesday, and that means Kevin Brockway from CNHI and Mike DeCourcy from Fox BTN, the Sporting News. Let's see. You picked up any other jobs recently?
Got enough jobs for now.
Yeah, he's got enough. I'm telling you. I'd say because there's no off season for you, man. Most beat writers, at least when the beat's over, nothing ever stops. Trust me. But it slows down. But if you're not covering a particular beat, you got to cover everything. There is no slowdown. It's just the seam to the next season or what's going on, and that's kind of how you have it, man.
Well, yeah, but there's no month quite like March. And then to add on, what we were talking about before we went to break about the U.S. soccer, this is the first time that because of the pandemic, the World Cup qualifying comes into March. I mean, usually it ends the year prior to the actual event. For instance, when I was in Columbus in, I believe it was September of 2011. 2013, when the U.S. clinched against Mexico to go to the World Cup in 2014. It was the year before. Well, this time they had to push it because of the pandemic, and it got a late start and all that. So it pushes it into March Madness, and so you've got the U.S. playing Mexico during the Thursday night Elite Eight or Sweet 16 games. And then on Sunday, you've got Elite Eight, U.S. versus Panama, all stacked up one after the other. I wrote 4 articles on Sunday to deal with the 3 on college hoops and then the 1 on soccer. I didn't, if the U.S. had clinched somehow prior to this window, I would have felt like, okay, I can not worry about it. But they didn't. They still haven't technically. And so I feel like I can't just say, oh, well, that's not as important, because it really is as important. That to getting to the World Cup is as important as pretty much just about anything. So until they actually get it done, I feel like I need to stay involved in it. And so I went to the Thursday night Sweet 16 games in San Francisco, figuring I would do everything I could to not know what the U.S.-Mexico result was. And I did. And I got to my hotel room afterward, and it wasn't the replay of the game wasn't loaded yet. It's like 2:00 in the morning Eastern time. It's like, how is it not loaded? So I watched the end of the Canada game, and I watched, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched the last 10 minutes of Canada. I watched the last 10 minutes of Costa Rica or whatever, and it's still not loaded. And so finally I gave up. I just couldn't, So I just watched an extended highlights package of about 10 minutes instead of the whole game. That's the only qualifying game that I've had to miss because the site didn't load the replay on time. But I went Elite Eight right into the U.S. soccer game on Sunday night.
And I'm looking as while most of us, Kevin, are once college basketball ends, that ends the big portion of the season. But then you've got spring football that is now started, also at the collegiate level. But you have the tournament that finishes up in April. You maybe get a little break. But baseball is in full swing. People are excited. Saul Pujols is coming back for one more year. But you've got the Indianapolis 500 in the month of May. You've got the Kentucky Derby in the month of May. And then now you've got AAU basketball and recruiting and all that stuff. It's just there's no stop. It's just
you left out the NFL draft, Jim.
Oh, yeah, and the NBA draft for that measure, I guess. Both of those, but the NFL coming up coming up quicker, I guess you'd say. So yeah, then the combine, which has already happened, but it's just a nonstop, man, which is great. And we're fortunate because Indianapolis is such a hub of a lot of the things that I just mentioned. There are if they're not involved in one of them, they usually are the next season. Almost every one of those, which is fortunate for people that live in this part of the country. I don't know if people realize how lucky they truly are if you live in the Indianapolis metro, even the regional area. The things that are at your disposal. It's crazy, the things that come to Indianapolis.
And speaking of, you want to talk about crazy. Have you heard the story about the U.S. Olympic swimming trials in 2024? They're going to put up a swimming pool in Lucas Oil Stadium, or 2 swimming pools, I think. Have you not heard about this?
No.
Saw it this morning, and this Indy Star has a story about it. I'm very curious how you can turn swimming into a compelling spectator sport inside a football stadium.
Yeah.
A year ago when we had the late trials because of the pandemic, they put them in whatever Creighton calls whatever Omaha calls the building where Creighton hoops. I don't know.
Yeah.
They had it in there, even though it's a basketball arena, and they put a pool in there. Now I thought it was pretty cool watching it on television, and I'm sure it was cool to be there. I don't know that I'm a super crazy about the fact that they're doing it in the football stadium, but again, it just sort of speaks to what you're talking about how this is sort of the crossroads of sporting America, so to speak.
How in the heck? What do they call the in-ground pool people and say, hey, bring us a couple of those indoor pools that you just sit below ground, and we're going to bring some dirt in and pack it around that. I mean, how do you build an indoor pool?
I don't know how they did it in the basketball stadium, but Creighton was not slipping and sliding this year. They had a regular hoop season. I don't know how they did it then, and I don't know how they're going to do it now. It's a fascinating from a standpoint of the logistics of it. But and also how will they make it how will you be close enough to see people complain about hoops in a football stadium. I'm not one of them because I went to the 1987 Final Four when Keith Smart hit the shot. I was in the upper deck at the Superdome, and I wouldn't have traded that experience for anything. I'm maybe for the seats I get now, but you get my point. It was a wonderful weekend. It is a wonderful weekend, and I think people should have that opportunity. I am curious, though. I know how to watch a basketball game from up there. I'm not eager to do it again, but I know how to do it and what it meant to me and how much I learned, by the way, about Bob Knight's offense sitting up there, because you could see the whole thing, all the patterns, like Steve I would go stand on the left wing, and I'm like, oh, here comes Alford. He's going to shoot from there. You learned about the game up there, but I am curious how you do that with swimming, which honestly, you think about it, it's just 8 people going this way and 8 people going that way. If you can't see super well what they're up to, it does sort of mitigate the appeal of the sport.
Dane Fife, I can't not mention that shocker that happened a week or so ago. The former Indiana player brought into great fanfare last year, and then after a season, it didn't work out. It didn't mesh, and there's a change, and which is not a big deal, except for it. There was such fanfare last year with all of this and how important it was, and this and that, and then. Well, a year later, here we are. Which I mean, I'm very surprised, but not really. I mean, you never always know everything that's going on, and I still don't know everything that was going on. So I just shrugged my shoulders. I don't get that bent out of shape about it because I'm like, going, here's what it is. I mean, I'm a report about it, but it's not gonna. You hate it. I hate it for Dane and his family because he was so entrenched there and up in Michigan after that. And but that's part of the coaching business as well. You have to look at it on one side. The part that's bad, I guess you'd say.
Well, you know what? I haven't gotten a straight story yet about what happened. I haven't been able to. Obviously, I mentioned everything that was going on, so I haven't had the opportunity to really pin down what happened. It's disappointing because I know how much Dane loves IU. I mean, you don't leave Michigan State to go to Indiana for what's essentially a lateral move, unless you really have an attachment to the place. I mean, he did. He may have gotten more money. I don't know, but he was getting paid very well at Michigan State. He had basically the same title. He was the right-hand man. It was all basically the same, but his attachment to IU, his passion for IU, brought him here. And I'm sure he thought that in time that if he showed his value, that he could also maybe succeed Mike. I'm sure that was part of it. But it's disappointing that that's not the direction that it's going to go because I really like him. I think he's unbelievably bright. I think he does a fabulous job. And so I don't know what happened to lead to this so quickly. But I hope that, I hope for Indiana's sake that they have that they know what they want to do with that, because you're replacing a really effective guy. Now, whether it meshed or not, I mean, obviously it didn't on some level because you don't make a move like that if it does. But, I hope that they have the right person in mind to replace him. And I hope that it goes well for them. But, I can't wait to see Dane bite back into business. He's too good. There are a lot of different new coaches out there. I'm sure he's taking his time deciding what he wants to do. But there isn't a new coach in college basketball that he can't help. He's really good.
Absolutely. They've Brian Walsh, who has been in Bloomington now. This will be his 6th season coming up, was elevated. Had been on the staff for 5 years previously, and now so he's been elevated up into that position. So he gets to begin his coaching career, which is what you're already kind of a coach when you're in his position anyway. It's just a different level. He was in charge of recruiting, which is a very important part of that coaching aspect, that assistant tree. Those guys have to be able to recruit too. And so good. Congratulations to him. Is what we're meeting with him later. As a matter of fact.
Why Brian's going to be great, right? Why he's going to be a superstar, don't you?
Is he from Pittsburgh?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He is, by the way, from the same part of Pittsburgh that produced a guy who can coach a little bit named John Calipari. Moon Township.
There's you get a lot of different opinions on that one, but it's funny, the talent, the college, the names that have come out of there. That's just not.
The interesting thing is, Jim, the interesting thing about it is that the area has produced very few players since the 70s. I mean, there've been a few that have made it. You look at Dwan Blair, for instance, became an All-American. He was a city of Pittsburgh kid, late 2000s at Pitt, great player at Pitt. But very few. But Skip Prosser was a Pittsburgh guy. Cal is a Pittsburgh guy. Sean Miller, a Pittsburgh guy. Arch, so a lot of people have made it in the business. Sonny Vaccaro, Pittsburgh guy.
Was he really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Well,
Sonny Vaccaro,
he's the king of them all, baby. He started it all almost.
He got started in basketball, working. He invented this all-star game called the Dapper Dan Roundball Classic.
Oh, I remember that. Gee whiz, I'm old.
And that was the progenitor of the McDonald's All-American game. They got the idea from the Dapper Dan to do that. And then
Garfunkel, I remember the Garfunkel.
Yeah, yep. And so then he went on from there. Yeah. He went on from there to start the ABCD camp, which became the Nike camp, and so that. And they started the big time tournament in Vegas, and look what we got with AAU now. So, and when I was a kid in high school, sophomore in high school, I was a big hoop head, as is evidenced now. And my high school biology teacher, who was assistant coach on the basketball team, said, "Hey, I'm going to this thing on, April 10th or whatever. Do you want to come?" So we went down to me, and he took a couple other students and another father of one of the students, and who's a teacher. And we all went to my first Dapper Dan game. And then from that point on, 1976 until I moved out of town in 93, I went to every single one. And I saw every great high school player except Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan from 1976 till 1992 going to that game.
Speaking of Magic, love the latest commercial with him and Sue Bird and Larry Bird in it.
Yes.
That was when you first see that, that's pretty funny. And she's so natural. She is so natural, man. She was the most natural actor of all of them.
Have you seen the one with her and Leitner and I think it's Michael? Is it Michael? All talking about the different shades of blue.
Yes. Yeah. That's another good one. She could be an actress. She's just very natural being herself. I don't know how well she could be an actress, I guess I should say, but most people have a hard enough time being themselves on camera, but not her, man. She was as at ease as Charles Barkley, and that man is as ease in front of a camera now as anybody. And man, that's one of my joys of March Madness is getting to hear Charles Barkley in the studio. I love listening to him because he has a way of telling you exactly what's going on and making it funny as hell.
He does.
Always going to make it funny.
He does. Absolutely. People sometimes complain about all the NBA guys doing the March games. What I always try to remind them is, one, it's good to have that attention paid to the college game to get those guys engaged. And two, you always have to remember this. In 2010, when CBS, for financial problems, issues, whatever you want to call it, decided they couldn't afford $700+ million a year for the NCAA tournament again, and so they weren't going to re-up. And so the ESPN said, "Yeah, okay, we'll do it if you give us 96 teams, 95 games, 96 teams." And so a lot of college basketball people said, one, yeah, we need the money, but two, that's going to ruin our sport. 96 teams would ruin the sport because, one, the tournament would be garbage, and two, the regular season, the drive to get one of those 68 spots would be gone. And because everybody that could even bounce the ball would get in. So Turner came in and said, okay, basically, I don't know what the exact terms were. We'll split it with you. So, like, if they want to put Bozo the Clown on the set, I'm up for it because we don't have 96 teams. But they're not. They're giving us Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley and Ernie Johnson. Those guys are pros, superstars. So I'm totally on board with what they do.
Oh, I love it, except for when they try to put people on that are terrible at it. Rex Chapman is not good at TV. Let's see. Huggy Bear. Not exactly Huggy Bear on the air. It's just funny. Well, he cracked me up most of all because he was just his normal self. Oh, well, they need to score more. It would be an answer, something like that, which would be great. And it was just hilarious. But CBS is sitting there going, I need more. What's coming up next for you, Mike?
Final Four, and then some sleep.
Are you heading off? Do you go to New Orleans? You heading out to New Orleans?
Of course. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
You know,
I
I don't know if you follow John Rothstein on Twitter from CBS Sports.
he did the first round, actually. He was in Dayton, I think, for the first four in.
Okay. Yes. And so John has this saying where he says, "We sleep in May." And I always say, John, I don't care what you do, but I'm sleeping in April.
Guarantee it, man. I may have to try to get John on here soon. But, yeah, looking forwad to it. But it should be a spectacular one. What are your thoughts? Did UNC and Duke split this year, or did UNC?
No. Yes, they did.
They did.
Duke won at Carolina, and Carolina won at Duke.
That's what I thought.
They did not play in the ACC tournament because Carolina got beat by Virginia Tech. So this will be their third meeting this year.
Rubber match, baby.
I expect it'll be Duke. I think they're a better basketball team, but they're going to have to work to get both wins. They're going to have to work to get them both because they had to work to get past Michigan State and Texas Tech really hard, and then they just had to be really good to beat Arkansas. It was a challenge, but they had to play great, but they did.
Looking forward to it, man. I cannot wait. Make sure you give him a follow and make sure you follow him on his appearances on the Big Ten Network. Let's see, how much more of that do you have?
None until hopefully next fall.
He's happy. You're like Don Fisher, man. He's already got packing stuff away in the closet till next year, baby. Mike DeCourcy, make sure you give him a follow. We appreciate him so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hey, we've got plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio, brought to you by our friends down at the courtroom in Bedford. Get down there and check out a game and a meal. Back with more with Kevin Brockway here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
What was that just? Andy Moore Honda.
I don't know if you want to use them here or later on, but I've got two clips from Tom Allen. One of them is talking about some of the new coaches, and the other one is talking about some of the standout players from spring practice. Kevin, that was actually your question, I think. And they're both over a minute long. They're kind of lengthy, but you can save them for later if you want because this segment will be kind of short. We can do it after Chronic if you want to use them.
Yeah.
What do you say, Kevin?
I was on that Zoom yesterday. I won't be on the Walshroom, though, because I'm flying. So I'm going to miss
I pulled the answer to your question from Tom Allen, Kevin.
I missed the daggone Tom Allen one yesterday. Daggone it. God dang
Tommy Allen.
There's freaking – hey, Kevin.
Yeah?
What the hell are you doing?
I'm plugged in my Wi-Fi thing because it's going down. My hotspot, so I'm trying to get...
Hey, is practice open?
Football? No.
It's not?
So. I don't think
None
so,
of it?
I don't think any of it's open.
Well, that's crap.
Is Thomas Allen still with the team, or did he graduate last year?
He's not playing anymore.
I think he's like a graduate assistant.
Graduate assistant or something. Yeah, I think
That's
so.
right. That's right.
That's what I expect to see next for Ali Patberg. Year number 8 in Bloomington, baby. Or not in Bloomington per se, but in college basketball.
Damn it.
You all right, Kevin?
Damn it.
This thing is not plugging in.
But, man, you sure sound better.
Hopefully my juice
is right in front of his microphone.
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be enough. I could plug this in the other room, but then I don't know if I'll lose the signal. It's just a pain. My mom's house is not enough.
All right, bringing us back.
Looking for a home in the Indianapolis area? You need Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indiehomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indiehomepros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Sounds like a little Mexican Tuesday. I had some
did not know that's what we
night.
were getting, but I guess we'll take it.
I can't tell. I mean, like, jamming a little bit. It's making me hungry, I can tell you that. Making me want to dance. Yay!
Taco Tuesday.
Well, I had Mexican last night, and I had no leftovers, unfortunately, so not for me. But I can always eat Mexican. I hadn't had it in a while. Let's see. What was I going to talk about? 2 swimming pools at Lucas Oil Stadium? Really?
It's kind of wacky stuff. Wacky.
Wild and wacky stuff. I'm trying to think. There's no place else, I guess, to do that. Why not build? Well, I guess you couldn't because it's in Indianapolis, but as big as swimming is, I mean, I know they have the natatorium up there, but I'm surprised they don't build a venue, a larger venue for swimming in Indianapolis. They are, I mean, it is, to me, is it? And I know that I live in the state, so it's going to sound a little self-serving, but is Indianapolis not the sports capital of the country? Of the world, for that matter? Really? I mean, if you really stop and think about it, everything that goes on, all right, everybody has a high school basketball tournament, but no one has one like Indiana does, A. B, the crazy love for basketball in itself across the state, even the women's teams, Notre Dame, Indiana, Purdue, all do well. Indianapolis 500, the Daytona or a NASCAR race. I mean, there's so much stuff that I'm not even talking about. The fact that NCAA headquarters are there, the Pan Am games are there. There's USA gymnastics. I think swimming is there. There's so much. You have the pro teams. The only thing they don't have is a pro baseball team, and they have a AAA team. I think one day, does Indianapolis go Major League Baseball one day? I wonder.
I don't know. Yeah, because
they've never tried to make that jump. Louisville, like down in Louisville, God, they're always wanting to add up an NBA team. Always here, they're going to add an NBA team because it's what it does for the cities. But I think like Louisville, I think they waited too damn late to do anything because you've got Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Nashville, who jumped them, who had nothing going sports wise. And then they added, an NHL team. Now they've got a pro football team. So now Louisville's just in such close proximity between, there's only 5 hours between Nashville and Indianapolis. Then you've got St. Louis to the west and Cincinnati to the east. Louisville kind of left themselves out, I think, as far as pro sports go.
Yeah, I think that too with Indianapolis.
Southern Indiana included in that.
This doesn't strike me as necessarily, a Major League Baseball state for some reason. I don't, I think there are a lot of allegiances to the Cubs, to the Reds. You've got the Reds close by. I don't know, Victory Field. Could you really expand it? I doubt it. So I don't
Not
know.
into a major league stadium, no.
Yeah. I think if there's a city in this region that gets Major League Baseball, I think it's, really the booming city in the region is Nashville. I think Nashville will get Major League Baseball within 5 years.
It's like I just said. That's why they've jumped Louisville.
Yeah.
By adding those pro sports. Then there's distance. And those leagues want some distance. They don't want a team 2 hours apart. They want larger fan bases. So Louisville is just actually overlap for Cincinnati, Nashville, St. Louis, and Indianapolis. Louisville is just the overlap for those 4 markets, if you look at them, if you stop and think about it.
Yeah, but it's funny in the Northeast, because I'm up here in New York, there's a lot more population density and everything. You have the cities are closer. And there's something to be said for having those rivalries, New York, Philadelphia. I guess you have in the Midwest with Chicago and Milwaukee, right? They're only like an hour and a half apart. So
Philadelphia, in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love.
That it is, yeah.
That's what Will Smith was he? Now he cracks me up. He goes up and slaps Chris Rock. And I'll come back to that. And then when he wins the Oscar, wants to talk about love and being a vessel and all this stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. You can't come up talking about that crap 10 minutes after you just bitch slap some guy on national TV. You can't do that. And
I will say this.
Now he apologizes to Chris Rock only after he was censored, or what's the word? I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for that the Academy of Motion Arts Pictures and all that is using, that they have condemned him, I think is the word, and are investigating it. And plus, if you're going to do something, why not hit the guy? That looked a lot more Prince of Bel-Air than Philly. And like I said yesterday, I guarantee you, I can't believe nobody else has said this besides me. I should have sent this out because I saw Howard Stern say it finally after I'd said it all day. But if that's Jason Momoa making that joke, or if that's if that is The Rock making that joke, Will Smith ain't going anywhere. He's going to keep his ass sitting in that seat. And first of all, he was laughing at the joke until he saw that she was all rolling her eyes. And so now he's going to be Mr. BA. But again, he wouldn't have done that had that been, one of the, most of those actors, I guess, are small, but there's a few of them that aren't. And Jason Momoa, my God, did you see how big he was next to Josh Brolin? He was like a foot taller and massive. So funny how he was brave there, but I found that funny.
Yeah, interesting. Protecting his family, though, I mean, there's something to be said for that. And it was very much a low blow. It was very much a blow. What Chris Rock said was very much a low blow. And
well, I do wonder this.
If he cold cocked him, Jim, if he cold cocked him, I mean, that would have been,
I think he
threw the line at the slap. You cold cock him, and then he's not hosting the show the rest of the show. Yeah, you know what I mean?
That does change a whole lot of stuff, man. But
it does, yeah.
I do wonder this. I wonder if he knew that, because I found out just happened the day before, and I don't know that I realized I knew she did it because of that, or but I still thought that maybe she was preparing for a role. I honestly did when I saw her.
She's got a medical condition, and that's something
I get that, but I'm just saying he might not have known that. I just found that out. And just because he's in the industry does not mean, I'm sure they're not sending out emails on everybody's conditions that's in the audience. But if he did, then it was kind of a low blow. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that he did. I'll be honest with you. Those guys are not sitting around reading crap on the internet on who's got what. So, but it was entertaining as hell, I'll tell you that.
It was it. Yeah, it was fun. I watched it live. I mean, it was crazy to watch and to see. And then they turned the sound off, I guess, during the broadcast. So
They did here, yeah. But I watched the one from Australia immediately, and I was like, "Wow, that really happened." Hey, I think we got to take a break because that's what John is telling us.
Yep.
All right, we've got Chronic Hoosier in the green room. We're back with that and more. Brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry. If you need that championship smile, go see our friend Dr. J down in Sellersburg. Back with more Indiana Sports Speed Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
Hey, Jim, I didn't understand your text unless you mistyped something.
I may have. After the show. The commercial.
Oh, Golf Club at Eagle Point. I got you.
Yeah, that spot.
We don't have one running right now, so I don't know
what
you're referring to. Because the one you did previously was outdated. It was talking about the 2021 golf season.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that, so
I can probably find it elsewhere if I need to. Morning, Chronic.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going.
Hey, brother, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you guys today?
Cannot complain. What's new?
Not a thing, man. Trying not to grimace too much. I fell down the stairs on Saturday, letting the dog out and bruised the shit out of my tailbone. So every time I move, I probably need to go get a donut, honestly.
Oh, that just hurts thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the blessing in all of it was I bent my leg back behind my shoulder, which realized my ACL is good enough that I can do shit like that and not go back to the hospital. But I broke the hell out of my toe. It's actually what stopped me is I got my toe wrapped around a spindle. So
man,
I'm a
mess. Start making fun of you.
I am a mess, but other than that, doing well.
All right, we're back in about 30 seconds.
Hi, I'm Kyle Brinker from Brinker's Jewelers. They want to be surprised with the one-of-a-kind proposal in the little green box from Brinker's Jewelers, where every one of our diamonds are hand-selected by an owner of the company. That means every single diamond has to meet a Brinker standard on beauty and value. So if you're planning on getting engaged, your engagement ring needs to come in that little green box from Brinker's Jewelers, voted the best jewelry store 9 years in a row by Evansville Living Magazine and the Readers, located at the corner of Green River Road and the Lloyd Expressway, or online at brinkersjewelers.com.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Speed Radio here on this Tuesday, brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Bloomington's number one Honda dealer, number one for a reason. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. Chronic Hoosier joining us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back.
It's always a pleasure. We've reached that time of the year where now we just kind of sit back and see what happens. Watch the Final Four play out, watch everybody hit the transfer portal, watch the people come in and see what
next year's basketball roster is going to look like. You got a lot to pack away. The women's team just finished a Sweet 16 run. Major League Baseball getting into play. The spring, you've got Little Five coming around, Indianapolis 500. So lots of things to look forward to and wait for.
Yeah, it's officially silly season. There's no doubt about it. This is kind of that wild part of the year, at least for teams that are done playing basketball. Even though we've still got precious few days left of the NCAA basketball season, the Hoosiers, like a lot of programs and players, have kind of moved on into the abyss of the portal season. So it's always wild and open up the Twitter every day just to see what's transpired since you last checked in. I think as we talked last week, I predicted that we'd probably get some news pretty quick. I'm not saying that was prophetic, but lots of movement. Still waiting right now though to see what some of the core of Indiana's roster decides to do with their future plans, and that could very well take a little bit longer, as Trace Jackson Davis is probably going to have to go get some legitimate evaluations in order to make a really informed decision about what he wants to do. But we're also waiting to hear from Race Thompson as far as what his plans are for next season, and then I think you'll probably see a roster that's largely cemented after that going forward.
If Trace Jackson Davis were to decide to come back, do you think that Race Thompson leaves? And if he doesn't come back, does Race Thompson come back? Is there what situation is it for Race Thompson to come back? I'm curious. I'm wondering.
I have zero idea. It probably depends on what his plans and goals are for the future. A guy in his situation, there's always the ability to not just return and get another season and hopefully improve your stock, but there's the opportunity to get an advanced degree. There's the opportunity to get some of that NIL money, which I believe IU is going to be in contention for when it comes to trying to attract and retain player services. And let's be frank, that's exactly what this is at this point. Teams are going to be retaining player services, and there will be price tags involved. It's just a wild new world. So who knows? But so much of this is going to come down to what's Race Thompson want for himself. What does Race see himself doing in the next couple of years, 5 years, 10 years, and what decisions are going to put him on the best path to achieve those goals. So it's fascinating to see. I imagine that there's probably some interrelation between what Race decides and what Trace decides. And I wouldn't even pretend to know which way that goes, if it makes him more or less favorable. But those guys are two known quantities to one another. They've seen what they're capable of, and it would certainly, I would imagine, impact one another's decisions as they contemplate what they want to do going forward.
I wonder if Mike wants to play Race and Trace on the floor together at the same time. There's part of me that thinks that he wants more the 4 out, 1 in, and if they both return, does that create a problematic situation where you're going to have to tell Race, hey, look, maybe you're going to have to back up Trace this year, much like Travion Williams did with Zach Edey, or do you go into next year playing them both together and seeing, because you did play them both together last year. I mean, they were both productive in a way, but you also barely got into the NCAA tournament.
I don't think they had a choice but to play them both last year, Chronic. I mean, they from a talent level on the floor, you basically had to have them out there.
Yeah, I mean, we're still early enough in Woodson's tenure here where as much as he has dreams for how he would like the offense to run and what style he wants to play, he's still cooking with a lot of predetermined ingredients, if you will. So you're going to have to whip up what's best with what you got. And obviously, that's going to be a primary focus as he heads into another recruiting cycle, both high school as well as transfers. Figuring out what type of players are going to best fit his vision for the program. But for the time being, Mike Woodson's still in a position where he very much is going to have to play whatever style his roster best affords him. And depending on which guys decide to come back, is probably going to lean pretty heavily on which direction that goes. But I do think there's something to be said for transitioning away from such a post-dominated offense and trying to get a little more action going from your shooters, which he's clearly very interested in.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the difference in the product that's on the floor next year from already what's coming in from another point guard status, from a shooting status. It's just going to be interesting and fun to see the new dimensions that team has. So I'm looking forward to that. The Dane 5 situation, as I had talked earlier with Mike DeCourcy, it is what it is, but it's not something that can just be brushed under the rug. I mean, it has to be acknowledged and looked at and talked about, because it was probably one of the more shocking things that's happened to Indiana fans. I mean, that was a shocker.
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable situation. A lot of HR matters are, quite frankly. Everybody starts every job with the best intentions, and everybody makes every hire with the best intentions. At the end of the day, it stirs a lot of emotion on both sides of the issue. From what I've seen over the last week, this is Mike Woodson's team. This is Mike Woodson's staff, and at the end of the day, Mike Woodson and his staff are responsible for putting a product on the floor. Nobody else is going to be accountable for that more so than Mike Woodson. I mean, that's just the reality of being a head coach. I've seen a lot of stories about how the staff came to be assembled. I've seen a lot of stories about how things fell apart or just didn't work, rather. The one thing I know for certain, since I wasn't a party to any of these things, Mike Woodson's made pretty clear that he's going to keep internal business inside the locker room. And there's been a whole lot of rumor and innuendo on all sides of the matter. At the end of the day, I trust Mike Woodson made a decision he felt was best for his staff, and that's going to be his and his alone to be accountable for, because ultimately it's his butt in the sling if things don't go as planned. So it's unfortunate to see the way that it's kind of spilled out in the public. But at the end of the day, I think the parties that are going to be able to shine the most light on it, at least to this point, have chosen not to speak directly about it. And I would imagine that will probably remain the code going forward. So make of it all what you will. I'm content just to recognize that it didn't work out, and this is the direction Mike's decided to go. So history will tell exactly how that worked out for the program.
Kevin.
Yeah, I just think that, obviously it's his team. If there was something that he felt uncomfortable about with the chemistry of the staff, then you have to make the move, no matter how painful it is. But I think with Dane, it kind of hurts because he's a guy that was an Indiana guy, right? And he was a member of that 2002 Final Four team. He kind of, he came back from Michigan State to, get a chance to, return to his alma mater, and it didn't work out, and it ended in an unfortunate fashion. But we will see going forward, what Dane meant. I always had an inkling that Dane meant a lot to their defensive efficiency numbers, and it will be interesting to see next year how much he will be missed from that standpoint. Are they going to be the same level defensive team as they were this past season? Because, as you know, Dane at Indiana made his bones on defense, career leader in steals, probably a great teacher of defense, a great analyzer of defense. And I'm sure he added a lot of value to Mike Woodson's staff in his first year on that, and was somewhat responsible for the defensive numbers. How much, we'll see. And we'll see if Brian Walsh can step in and be the kind of guy that adds value to the staff. I think the way Dane did his first year, but they got to the NCAA tournament because of defense, and I have a feeling that Dane's acumen in that area certainly played a role.
I mean, there's no doubt he's the most well-versed scout on that staff, or at least when it comes to institutional knowledge, both of the program as well as the conference. It's going to be tough to replace a guy that's watched that much film of Big Ten teams. Indiana's included, and the insight he provided, being able to see it as an opposing coach, it's going to be tough to replace. And I think you're exactly right. It probably impacted IU's defense as much as anything. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes forward. But I think that the thing that should carry the engagement. this was the first time in a while you saw a team that was really, really interested in engaging on the defensive side of the ball. And you got the sense they recognized how it rewarded them. So, if that's a part of the culture that can carry over and transcend an assistant staff hire, Woodson's probably going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and looking forward to what the team looks like. I'm looking forward to seeing C.J. Gunn come in. Looking forward to seeing Jalen Chafino, Banks, the whole new crew, and then whoever else the new guys will be. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to spring, man. I know we're going to have some 70-degree temperatures tomorrow, but that won't last long as it gets back to the 50s. How far out from Little 500 are we, Chronic?
I think about 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, but I cannot. I'm not going to lie. I can't say I've got that date circled on my calendar these days, but I know it's coming. I know my man Zach Osterman is coaching a team yet again this year, so he's pumped. We got a lot of riders in my neighborhood, and it's just cool to see him back out on the road again. Which, by the way, be careful if you're driving around Bloomington. There are bicyclists everywhere. Give them some space. Had a team just around the corner from me, had an accident a couple years ago. But I know a lot of kids are excited to get back out and be able to partake in the entire week that leads up to it with full participation this year. So it's going to be good to have that piece of Bloomington back, just as much as it's good to see the flowers start to bloom again here, and the air hopefully warming up a little bit for us going forward. But this is that wild part of the year where you never know what you're going to get. Without fail, you're going to have like 3 seasons over the course of 10 days. So, hopefully get a chance to get over to Bart Kaufman here at some point, as well as Andy Moorfield, and go see some baseball and some softball now that they're starting to get into the heart of the home schedules on both sides.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some marketing things that they could do for baseball. Maybe have a Will Smith, Chris Rock pie throwing contest.
I don't even know where to go with that. That's something you got to save you got to save it for a Michigan game, regardless. If you're going to do that tie-in, it's got to be against the Wolverines.
Oh, perfect, man. Well, brother, I cannot tell you how much appreciate you as always. Hope you're feeling better and the family's doing well as also.
We're looking forward to getting back outside. A little bit of cabin fever is definitely setting in after we had the spring break staycation. But we're starting to get back into it, man. Track's back in session right now. Football camp's going on over at South. Got us busy, but it's like I said earlier, man, it's good to be back out and about.
Looking forward to it, buddy. Looking forward to seeing you or talking to you again next week. We'll do it.
We'll see you then. Have a good one.
Hey, back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, of course, brought to you by our great friends at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. Back with more with Kevin and Brockway right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting...
All right, your reminder, I've got Tom Allen clips for you if you want to talk football.
Yeah. Very briefly.
Very briefly, Indiana fans don't like football.
No. Indiana fans don't give a crap about football right now.
I wouldn't say that's 100% true from what I've read on social media, but
not 100%.
I would say they're obviously they're focused on basketball transfer portal. I get that, but
man, even if it's in the middle of football season, it's 50-50 at best.
Well, based on last year's performance, I would agree with you.
And based on the 80 years prior to that.
Yeah, but I would argue the year before, from my personal perspective, I didn't give a shit about Indiana basketball when Indiana football was doing well, especially when you consider how bad Indiana basketball had been.
Well, how unlikable they were under Archie, too.
Good. Yes, exactly. They weren't even fun to watch.
Yeah.
Lil Rhodey?
Lil Rhodey, baby.
Lil Rhodey.
But anyway.
We can talk about Final Four predictions, also. And...
That's true.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Do a little bit of
I was going to say, take a rag and maybe wipe your camera off. I don't know if it's fogged up a little bit.
You don't have to use both clips because they're both kind of lengthy. One's about the new coaches. One's about players that have stood out in spring practice.
What's the first one you said?
The first one's about some of the new coaches that have come in, and the second one is about some of the players that have stood out. That was Kevin's question.
Well, I asked about the quarterbacks, yeah.
He didn't really – well, did you ask more than one question?
No, I just asked about the quarterbacks.
Somebody, maybe it wasn't you. It just sounded like you whenever I heard the question asked.
Matt Weaver asked.
Maybe it wasn't you. It just sounded like you.
It sounded, yeah.
Does Matt Weaver sound like you?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this: Matt Weaver starts his coach. Well, I can tell you right now, it's Matt Weaver if he does this. Hey, coach, how you doing?
I didn't hear that, but I wasn't paying attention.
He always does that.
Yeah, before every question. Hey,
who's the one
coach,
that?
How you doing?
Who's the one that? Oh man, maybe that's who. Maybe I'm thinking of the same person. Who knows? But here we go.
Hey, this is John, the producer with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It's Tuesday here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by our good friends down at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. I could use one of all three of those right now.
Why not? Yeah.
And enjoy it. I couldn't eat them all, but I would certainly enjoy a little bit of it. The Final Four coming up. We'll talk about that in a minute. Indiana football spring practice is upon us. Tom Allen met with the media yesterday as that has opened up. You've got 5 new coaches. You've got a new prospective starting quarterback, and I say prospective because we don't know. Is it going to be him, or is it going to be is it Barzilak or Jack Tuttle, who's not going to just hand his job away that he's been trying to get for 3 years now? But 5 new coaches, man. That's like the second year in a row, though, they've added about that many, I think, isn't it? I mean, they had a lot of guys to replace the year before.
Yeah, I don't think quite as much, but I think every year
it's just more. It was because of it was coordinators, but yeah, it's hard to succeed when you continue to have turnover at the coordinator spot, though. You can't replace a coordinator year after year and succeed unless there is a machine already in place, and that machine is not in place. So it's like they keep coming in. Okay, we're going to change this, and instead of running a small block engine, we're going to run this. They're changing things every year. And anyway, let's hear what Tom Allen had to say about his new coaching recruits.
Adam Henry's his first time being with us here this past week. Just really excited about him. Just a great fit for us in his coaching philosophy. Is love his demeanor, love the way he coaches our guys, and just the confidence he brings and the experience he brings, and is elite and special. And I think he's just got a great heart for our players, and that's what I want. So really excited about all the new guys we've got, but obviously he's the newest one we've had as well. And just being able to grow our staff and bring in guys that fit with us and help us continue to build our program. And also have added Rod Carey to our quality control staff, and really excited about him. And I know he played here, loves Indiana. Just want to welcome his family. He's going to be really assisting us on defense and also assisting me as head coach with all his experience that he's had. And just, once again, it's guys that love this place and want to help us continue to build the program and build what we're doing here as a football team. So really encouraged by the progress we're making with our guys this spring. Got practice number 7 in the morning. We'll be back in Shells, and then again Thursday and then Saturday as well. So just continue to get better as we progress through each one of these practices.
A lot of red there, man. Just seeing all the new Adidas gear he's got on, new black pullover there. But spring practice proceeding along just quietly behind the scenes. What are your thoughts? Indiana going into this season, this is how critical of a season for Tom Allen is this after – I mean, there's no other way to say it. Last year's debacle. It was just a debacle. There has never been a more underwhelming, underperforming, overhyped team in the history of my knowledge of an Indiana program, period.
Yeah, no, that was last year was a year to forget. A lot of injuries, a lot of other issues behind the scenes in terms of how things unraveled there. So yeah, this is an important bounce back year for Tom and for the staff. And Rod Carey's an interesting guy in that he played at IU 90 to 93. He was a center for the team, and had some success as a head coach in Northern Illinois, and then it didn't work out for him at Temple. But will be another guy kind of in Tom's ear. I think that was a good move to get him as an analyst. And Adam Henry obviously has a really good resume in terms of what he's done with wide receivers, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham. So you've got some guys coming in that are pretty good. But Walt Bell is the key hire. Can he improve the offense?
He could be a key hire.
do more with less. He'll be the guy that's going to be really evaluated here, and in terms of how he's going to get that offense turned around. And you're bringing in a lot of transfers, both on offense and defense too. And transfers, as we mentioned, are kind of a dicey proposition. But we will see if some of these guys can come in and make the kind of impact that you would hope that they would make right away, given some of their past stops and past performances.
Five Left said, hey, Jim, I heard Archie's going to pull a Will Smith when he sees you. Well, I think that would be a little reversed. He would be the Chris Rock, and I'd be the Will Smith on that end. Just if you're comparing by physical stature. Lil Rhodey, I should have said. Lil Rhodey. That's Lil Rhodey. L-I-L. Lil Rhodey. Let's see. Other comments that I missed. Tim mentioned the 2020 Miss Indiana basketball, Sydney Parrish, entered the transfer portal, leaving Oregon. I think she just spent 1 year out there, which it does suck to see talent like that leave the state or go far away. But, guess where Allie Patberg came from? She went away to Notre Dame, and Indiana could sure use a player of that caliber right now on their women's team with what they're losing, Kevin?
Yeah, why not? I mean, Allie Patberg was from Columbus. I mean, she was an in-state player. Tori Allen, though, didn't work out a couple of years ago, right next to Lawrence Northborough, who, came in with a lot of hype and fanfare. So you just never know. I mean, I think Terry Morin is going to go out and get the best players she can get, whether they're from Indiana, whether they're from Kentucky, like Grace Berger, whether they're from Maine, right, like Mackenzie Holmes, or on Mars. I think that's the thing. I think she, I trust her and her staff's ability to recognize talent based on, what they've done. So if they think Sydney, Parrish is a good fit, they'll bring him in. But if not, I wouldn't be heartbroken based on Terry Morin's track record. I think she knows, Chloe Moore McNeil is going to be another interesting player in a couple of years. I think she was really on the come this year.
Oh man, that girl can shoot. Yeah, she was a surprise. Definitely helped him out. Too many 3 names, man. Too many hyphenated names. And not that I'm glad she's gone, but Nicole Cardaniel Hillary. You got 3 names with 2 first names at the front and the back. I'm like, God, that was driving me crazy. I couldn't.
They won't miss her. She's a spark plug defensively.
Oh no, I didn't mean I miss her play. She was awesome to watch. I mean, and really, I did enjoy watching her. She was a little water gnat, man. I would not want her guarding me. That's like, get away, man. She was definitely a pesky defender.
Why is Buffalo building a new 1.4.8? Yeah, that's not a dome or retractable. Maybe they like the elements.
That's what I was wanting. I'll tell you why. It's exactly why. Buffalo wants it to be Buffalo, baby. It's like Green Bay. Green Bay's not going to play in a dome. The frozen tundra, baby. That's their
home field advantage.
Cleveland doesn't play in a dome.
Yep.
Minneapolis, those little sissies up there in Minnesota, bunch of sissies. I'm kidding. But you know what? I would think Cleveland would get more impactful snow because of the lake effect snow than Minnesota.
It's just frigid. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's just.
You remember in the 70s they played in that
I'm not blaming them, man. I'd be wanting to play inside. I'm not lying to you.
Yeah, you remember that, right? Remember they played in that
Miami, baby.
They played in that outdoor stadium where the Twins played. The Vikings did, and it was. And if you remember that was Drew Pearson, right? The Hail Mary caught the ball in that stadium in the 1970s.
The Hail Mary. What? So the entire Murray State team is in the portal now? Man. That stinks for a program that had a great season. Their coach is poached away, and now their program dumped. But the portal works for teams like that too, because there's going to be guys that aren't there. Hey, it's there. Put it together. Let's see. What did Kevin?
McMahon leaving really, caused things to unravel there. Had he come back, maybe they would have the whole thing together. But this has been a complaint about. This was the complaint about grad transfers before the portal, and I remember even before I came here interviewing Bruiser Flynn about that, about them losing all those Drexel players because they were graduating and they went to other schools.
Ooh, here's a great one. Ross would rather see an NHL team in Indianapolis over Major League Baseball, and I have to think that an NHL team would have more success in Indianapolis than baseball, but I don't know that to be a fact. Indianapolis is just a city that has so much going on in the summertime because of all these other things. But hockey is different, like soccer is different to where, it's not that I would rather see that, Ross, but I think that, but I don't know if you're not in Indy, so is there a hockey love in Indianapolis? I mean, it's far enough north, but I don't know what's the love for hockey there. They don't have any kind of a team to my knowledge.
They have a minor league team, don't they, that plays somewhere?
Do they?
I think they do, yeah. I think they have a minor league, or they had one, but
everyone's had one at one time or another.
It would be interesting. I mean, I don't know. I went to a Columbus Blue Jackets game in November, and it was a lot of fun. And it would be interesting because you would have that natural rivalry with Columbus right across I-70. You'd have a rivalry with the Blackhawks,
The Indy Fuel, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, they do have a minor league team, I believe.
Yeah, they play over in the Farmers Coliseum, which has hosted. I will always say this every time we talk about the Farmers Coliseum, but it hosted the 1957 NBA Finals, baby.
How about that?
Yeah, how about it? But so there you go. Yeah, you got the Indy Fuel. I don't think that arena would be big enough for an NHL team, but that's okay. You've already got. I was going to say you already have Gamebridge, and yeah, there you go. I enjoyed watching hockey. Hockey's fun. I didn't grow up with it.
Yeah,
but when I grew up in Southern Indiana, they had a couple of minor league teams in Louisville. I remember covering them when I was in TV. About cut my daggone thumb off. Well, a TV tripod come crashing down. Oh, God, that hurt me just thinking about that just now. What's coming up next for you, man?
Yeah, I'm working on kind of a retrospective on the 2002 team that made the Final Four. So I've got that. And then I've got some Big Ten column today, a little bit about kind of the Big Ten's flame out in the NCAA tournament. And then, did
they really flame out? Now, last year they flamed out in a hurry. It was like poof. Yeah. This year, they didn't have anyone overachieve.
Yeah.
Or I guess I could say they didn't have anyone that got better during the tournament. Whereas North Carolina has gotten better during the tournament. The Peacocks got better as the tournament, or they may have been getting better as the tournament was arriving. I didn't follow them, obviously, but some teams don't catch fire until the tournament starts.
Purdue had a pretty good path, and they didn't take advantage of it. I think that's
having a path and playing well are two different things.
Yeah.
And here's another question, and I'm not saying this to do the Purdue thing. I don't have to. How much longer before Matt Painter is the next Gene Cady? Purdue, they have the most Big Ten titles, which is great. But they seem to focus on Big Ten titles. And that's great, except for that's just your conference, and the ultimate goal each year is to win a national championship. And they have not sniffed a Final Four since Lee Rose was the coach at Purdue. That predates Gene Cady. The great Gene Cady did not make a single Final Four with the big dog, with all the talent that he had. And I'm not cracking on Gene Cady, but this is the third time in, 4, maybe 5 years, Purdue has had a team, probably a Final Four team.
Yeah. George King had the Final Four team in the 1980 also, with Bill Barry Carroll. That was right before.
That's the last one.
Yeah.
Well, the last one and the only second one. They've only been to 2 in 100 and something years of basketball. Yeah. But my point being, that's becoming, I know Purdue fans are happy with how their seasons have gone and winning a Big Ten championship, and they should. But at some point, what are you playing for? Are you playing for?
They didn't win. They didn't win the Big Ten title this year, or the Big Ten.
No, not this year. They were in contention for it.
They were in position to win both, and they didn't get it done. And I think that,
so to me, their entire season was a disappointment.
I think so. I would have to say it was disappointing in the fact that you had all this talent coming back. You had this guy coming back. You asked Travion Williams to sacrifice, right, with the whole Zach Edey thing. That didn't really. I never thought that really worked out well. I thought they never got in great rhythm. But I don't know if you could have played them together. And there were some. Jaden Ivey obviously emerged, but he's going to be gone probably fairly soon, and he's going to be a lottery pick. So where do you go from there? Brandon Newman is kind of waiting in the wings. He'll probably step in and do some good things.
And you got Trey Kaufman.
And you got Trey Kaufman-Renn. You've got Ethan Morton, I think.
Caleb First.
Caleb first. So you do have some talent, but they'll be ripe for the picking next year. I mean, if Indiana does things right, maybe they can not only get one, but maybe sweep the series.
Man, next year's Big Ten season can be completely different. That having an idea of what it might be, that is long. That's gone. I'm like, don't even ask me. I'll tell you 6 months from now. Yeah. Don't ask me right now. But so, man, we're about out of it. I can't believe it. So, yep. I was going to hit lots more comments. Talk about Thad Matta. Steve asked, I think he's talking about where Dane might go. Not at the moment, no. Let's see. Chris Rock did not know about alopecia. That's just coming out. First to Aiden, so thank you for that. John, I'm just cracking the whip, babies. Cracking the whip. I'm trying to get some more in here. Thank you guys so much. It has been another fabulous day with you, as always, and look forward to being back again tomorrow. Working on getting Michael Lewis on, the new coach at Ball State. Looking forward to talking to Michael.
Congratulations. Public endorsement worked pretty well there, yeah.
I guarantee. Hey, I was sitting. Hey, John's going to yell at me. I got 20 seconds. I'll tell it tomorrow, but I'll tell it tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Hopefully we can get him on here ASAP. Until then, thanks a lot to Chronic Hoosier. Thanks a lot to Mike DeCourcy and to Kevin Brockway. Make sure you give him a follow at CNHI Papers and on Twitter. Thanks to John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, no reason to be here. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana